350, 345,
Okay.
350, and then I just have to get ready for another training right after that.
Cool. Well, welcome everybody. I am so excited and honored to have one of my mentors, Rob Sperry, on the line with us. Wow, what an honor. Rob, welcome to the show. And I'd love to just maybe have you introduce yourself a little bit to my guests. Tell them a little bit about your company and what it is that you do as an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on. I feel very honored and, of course, very excited. I've been able to watch this guy, Nate. He's just a mover and shaker. He's always looking to break new records, his own records. He's always looking to break company records and just always making it happen. He's one of the best action takers I know. We work on something and he asks for advice on something, and the next thing you know, the guy's already got it dialed in. So love working with you, love helping you out. I learn a ton from the amount of action that you take and make things happen. And a little bit of my background is I have a direct sales background. But prior to that, I was the tennis guy. I played semi-professional tennis, college tennis, taught tennis, ran a tennis club. Then even after that, after I got out of tennis and got into direct sales, I still coached a high school tennis team for over a decade for free. Didn't make $1. I just loved coaching. And so I did that. Most people don't know that, but that's how much I love coaching. Now I just coach my kids tennis, which is also very fun and very frustrating at the same time. If you've ever coached your own kids in anything, it's fun and frustrating all at the same time. But a little bit of my direct sales background started 13 years ago. I was the number one recruiter out of 1 million distributors in a multi-billion-dollar company. That's some of the highlights of it. Of course, throughout, I failed my way forward. Of course, throughout, I had times where my 5th month in the business, I worked 80 hours a week and I made less than $400 for the month. So I could give you way more failures. So even though I'm giving you some of the successes in the highlight version, just know that there were way more failures along the ways. There were many doubts, many things that, came up as we went. But, from that, I helped another company, another multi-billion-dollar company, create an entirely new brand, a new company. We launched $1 million in sales. That was a phenomenal experience. And then I helped facilitate the largest merge in the direct sales industry about 5 years ago now, which was another good experience. I always just trying to learn and just play connector, and it was a lot of fun. I did transition into personal coaching, and so now I'm an author. I wrote 4 books this year, which I didn't even realize. Nate, I got
I
4
didn't
books.
realize you did that many,
Yeah.
bro. I
Yeah,
read
so I had one book
one of
before
them, but
this year, and
sheesh.
that took 7 or 8 years to do, and then I released 4 books this year. So now I've got 5 books. I've spoken in 18 plus countries the last 3.5 years. And so that's been fun. And I get to
Going
run
around the globe.
masterminds with top earners twice a year, 6 and 7 figure earners. I run masterminds all over the world. And then I do masterminds for those that haven't made 6 figures 3 to 4 times a year. So I'm having fun. I'm coaching, I'm teaching, but as always, I'm still learning as well.
Wow, I love it. So talk about momentum. I mean, 7 years to write that first book and now 4 in 1 year. It's like.
It's the COVID advantage. It was like, I had all these trips. I was going to Europe a couple times, and I just gotten back from Australia, and the whole world shut down 2 days later. And so I had all these. I was going to go speak in South Africa, at all these places in Canada. And when that happened, I was like, you know what? Let's make the best of it. So I just went into content creation and provide as much value as you possibly can to make it happen. So I think I'm going to slow down next year. Next year, maybe we'll go for 2 or 3 bucks on that and focus on the promotion. But it's been a ton of fun, a great learning process.
Wow, Rob, I love that. It's kind of like, that analogy of dancing in the rain. You got a big rainstorm coming, had all these events canceled. Instead of, getting upset, you just decided to dance and turn into a huge win for you, right? It's like probably making a lot more money because of all that work you did this year than you probably would have otherwise, right? You're sharpening that saw and just taking things to a new level, right?
Yeah, it wasn't initially. It's one of those things where one of the concepts I teach is they're victims, survivors, and conquerors. And the victims focus on the past. The survivors people celebrate, and it's a good step in the right direction, but they focus too much on the future. So someday, I'm not going to quit. And they think that equals success. It's important, it's vital, but it's not enough. And then there are the conquerors, right? Where they go all out and they know that Sunday isn't one of the 7 days of the week. They borrow from the past, right? So they're learning from the past, the victim, and they're borrowing from the future, the survivor, and they're focusing on the now. Well, I always teach that no matter how successful you are, you have all three of those moments. Just the more successful you are, the more often you have conquer moments. The more often you're transitioning out of victim and survivor mindset and shifting up to the conquer mindset. The less successful you are, the more you're either in the survivor or the victim mindset. So why do I teach this? Because I don't go through the victim mindset almost never. I'll go from survivor to conquer to conquer to conquer to survivor to conquer. Very rarely to go to victim mindset. COVID hits and I went into victim mode quickly for not very long. It was just a day. But I'll tell you why. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's a podcast to have fun. We'll just be real and vulnerable.
Yeah, I love it.
I had one speaking gig where I was going to speak for 2 days and I was going to get paid $60,000. And that was not postponed. That was canceled with COVID. So it's not like you're like, yeah, this is so amazing. I'm going to make the best of this. I'm so blessed. I'm so excited. Right. So I was a victim. The next day I'm like, okay, it's fine. At least I still have, great business model. Most of my business is on the line. So it's incredible. That was the next day. Third day, I'm like, I'm done with this crap. I'm going to turn this to the best thing that ever happened. And so I released my planner and my journal. I released 4 books, right? I just went and I did my podcast I doubled down on, and I think I did 90 episodes this year on my podcast. So I just went all out crazy on that, did a ton more lives. I have 2 different Facebook groups I focus on, and I made a commitment to post every single day in both of those groups. And so I could go on and on and on. But what I did is I set myself up where not only did it turn into an incredible year this year, but it will set me up for years and years and years and years to come. So I teach you that because we all go through these different mindset, right, shifts. I did as well. But the difference is the more successful you are, the quicker you respond, the quicker you shift out of those mindsets and get into that conqueror mindset.
Oh man, I love that. It gives me the chills, man. What's the book? I just read it. Tell everyone what the name of that book is.
The Game of Conquering. Yeah, you listened to it on the plane to Sedona, Arizona. So yeah, it's the Game of Conquering. The first book I wrote about was the Game of Networking, which would be like a modern day how to win friends and influence people, techniques, tips, trainings, strategies on it. And then the Game of Conquering is 100% on mindset, hits home on the top 5 fears we all face. And then it lays out, are you victim, survivor, and conqueror, and gives you real life examples in each one of those 5 fears, as well as solutions at the very end. So that book did take me 2 years, but I'm getting faster. It was like 7 years, then it was like 2 years, then, and then obviously a little bit quicker and quicker on some of the others.
Dang. Yeah, and it's such a good message for everyone about the victim mentality. I mean, everyone got hit so hard with that. I think it's pretty impressive that it only got you down for a day. I remember when COVID hit, man, I was really like almost like in panic mode for several weeks. I mean, but same thing, right? Like, I mean, the real test of a champion is someone who's going to just take it and run. Like, now that I look back at 2020, I'm just looking and seeing like so many blessings, so many hidden things that, man, had COVID not rocked my world, like there's no way I probably wouldn't even be doing this podcast right now,
True.
right? I mean, you get so busy in the humdrum. I mean, it got us all to go sit back and look at the world, look at what we really wanted, and reinvent ourselves in a way that and discover ourselves, right? Discover new things that we could do. And what a great example of someone who's made lemonade out of lemons.
It's been a lot of fun. It's been quite the journey, and And, you know, as we go, it's always, you got to just learn to adapt, right? That's one of the biggest things we know for those that are leaders or successful is you're always going to have hidden challenges you never ever could even plan for or imagine. And that's when you just got to say, you know what, all I can do is all I can do. And all I can do is my best and focus on the controllables,
Mm.
and the rest isn't really going to help you. Even if you are justified, it isn't going to help, because I just heard today on the radio, so it's got to be 100% true. I turn it on, like I usually am like listening to books or audio messages. I'm like, I just want to listen to music, clear my head. So I turn it on, and there was, you know, the guy was talking, and he said the average person this year is sleeping 47 minutes less than last year, just to give you perspective
Wow.
of what everyone is going through. I mean, they're
Just
at
the
home more.
anxiety.
So if anything, they could be sleeping
Yeah. I would have thought
much
more
more,
sleep.
right? But they're sleeping less, which
Mm.
means they're probably focusing on the problems rather than the solutions. Now, I know some are going to be like, no, I'm sleeping less because I'm focused on solutions. I'm up late. That you're the exception of the rule. Most are focusing too much on the problems, when we all know we need to focus 90% of the time on the solutions. But successful people just do the basics better. It's always easier said than done, right? It's like we know what we need to do, but getting us to focus and do it is so much harder to actually do and make happen. But definitely a ton of experiences and learning lessons the last I don't even know how long. I don't even want to say how long. Too long this year,
Mm.
right?
Hmm. I love it. I love it. So, Rob, you've been a personal branding coach and just a general coach of people that are in the direct sales industry for what has it been, like 3 years now?
Yeah, it'll be 3 years since I launched my first course next month.
And I know that took a lot of guts to do that. Can you talk about, like, was there a time in this journey that you just wanted to give up? Like, you're just like, I had
Yeah,
so much going, I was so successful, jumped into this new arena, and maybe it didn't go like you thought, and you just felt like, I can't do
the
this anymore.
first 6 months, I made less money than I had made in the last 8 years. I
Ooh.
mean, I was making more money 8 years before that. So in my mind, look, I had, savings, but in my mind, I was just thinking, what am I doing? I mean, what am I doing right now? But remember, prior to direct sales, I was a tennis coach. And think
Mm.
back to how much I loved it and what I did. And I just thrived on that. And so for me, I was just trying to figure out a way to crack in, because when you really look at the direct sales profession, most people don't realize it's a $200 billion profession. Let's put that in perspective. That's bigger than the NFL,
Wow.
NBA, NHL, and Major League Soccer combined, not individually. It's bigger than the movie industry.
Wow.
It's massive, and people don't realize how massive. And when you look at it, there's less than 15 coaches that are making over six figures that I know
Mm.
of, that are just, meaning they're just focused on direct sales.
Hmm.
Of course, there's some that, a little bit here, a little bit there. Those that are making over $500,000 a year, there's less than six.
Whew.
So who am I kidding to try to break into this, right? As I started doing
Wow.
due diligence, and it was just like, oh, this is harder, way harder than what I was doing prior. And I felt like I'd finally reached that, that level of good success and being comfortable. And the next 6 months got a little bit better. I'm like, okay, now I can at least survive. I wasn't thriving, but at
Yeah.
least I can survive. I know it's all relative. And then after that, the next 6 months were good. And the next 6 months were really good.
Mm.
And then it was just great. And then I was able to break into, the top 5 earners for coaches. And it was phenomenal from that standpoint. But more than that, what that represented, it meant that I was helping a ton of people. It meant that
Mm.
the message was resonating. It meant that, you know what I mean? We talk about the money, of course. I love what money can do, which is, as you know,
Mm.
it's time freedom. I mean, I do 7+ family vacations. I just got back from my son in Dubai, where we did all these bucket list items of things I'd never done, swam with sharks, went skydiving,
Yeah, I saw your
went and
video
raced
jumping
in
out of
a
that
in a
plane.
Ferrari with a pro. Like, I mean, I could go on and on, just crazy things. We both flew first class there. Like, who cares about the money to show people? It's all about creating the memories. Die with
Yeah.
memories, not with dreams is my favorite quote of all time. So
Oh,
for
love
me,
it.
it was such just a phenomenal experience to be able to do that. And so that's what making a lot of money represents. It just means you're providing a ton of
Mm.
value for people to be able to utilize the most precious thing we have on this earth and in this life, which is time. And so I was very, very driven to figure it out. And I knew I had to provide value. And that's why when you think this year, right? Planner journal, 4 books, 90 plus episodes on
Mm.
podcasts, YouTube channel this year. I had one, but I didn't really have one
Mm.
till COVID hit. Started a month after COVID. And I think I have 160 plus thousand minutes that have been listened to on YouTube since then. So, I mean, I just went all out, just value, 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 value as much as I possibly could.
Oh man, I love it. I love it. So what kept you going, Rob, during that 6 months when I mean, to have made the kind of money you were making and then, go from here to here, God, like what drove you? What kind of perspective kept you in the game?
If there's such a thing, can we call it positive pride and insanely stubborn and competitive? When I commit to something, I pride myself on, I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm not the fastest, I'm not the smartest, but I'm very, very tough. And
Mm.
so in my mind, that's how I was in the direct sales when I started. Remember my 5th month, I made less than $400 working 80 hours a week and had massive doubts and massive setbacks. And so for me, I had committed. And once I commit and I tell other people I'm going to do something, it's like, I really do burn the boats. The boats have been
Mm.
burned and there is no looking back. Like for me, there truly is no option. I mean, I was so stubborn growing up that my family would laugh at me and they still make fun of me that there's a restaurant we all know called Sizzler. Well, growing up, I thought this is the worst restaurant in the world. Well, my family loved it because it was like this all you can eat buffet. And I'm like, well,
Yeah.
yeah, but if I want to get tacos, I'm going to go to a taco place instead of getting crap tacos at Sizzler. And if I want to get, a burger, instead of getting a burger that's really poorly done at Sizzler, I'm going to go to a burger place. So in my mind, and this is when I'm 11 years old. And so in my mind, I didn't want to go there. And I was so stubborn that anytime my parents went there, and I had 3 other siblings, all younger than me, I would sit in the car. My parents told me I couldn't eat the rest of the night. And I wouldn't complain and I wouldn't eat. And this would happen once to twice a week. I just wouldn't go in. So I'd rather not eat. That's how stubborn I was. So it wasn't always used for good, but sometimes it is used for good. And in this sense,
Yeah.
I had committed. I had seen the vision. I knew it was possible. I knew it was something I was passionate about. I think that's key. I
Mm.
was passionate. I knew I had experience and I felt like I could do well at it. I just knew it was just going to take some time to figure out. And I think that's one of the biggest fears we have is the fear of the unknown. Not knowing when makes many people, not makes, has many people quitting. Many people quit
Mm.
because they don't know when. If you knew when you started you would have success in whatever venture, whether it's 2 months, 6 months, 6 years, you'd probably be able to do it. Because you don't know when, you quit. I mean, think how long it takes to become a doctor or an attorney or, dentist. Whatever. People are willing to do that because there's a clear path for them and they know exactly this is how much debt I'm going to have. This is what the average person
Mm.
makes. This is what's possible for making, right? And so a lot of the fear of the unknown is cut out. Whereas in this, people freak out. They don't know, right? In investing in
Mm.
real estate or starting their own business or being part of direct sales, being any form of an entrepreneur, the fear of the unknown is a butt kicker.
How does someone overcome that? I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, if people don't get success right away, it's like they don't see that vision and then they give up. How does someone overcome that?
Yeah, there's a book called Influencer, And it says the two questions everyone asks themselves is, number one, can I do what you're doing? So they're asking themselves, can I do it? That's the first question you have to answer. Can I do it? And you can challenge that. Has someone else been able to do it? Has someone else, probably with less of a skill set or background than me, been able to do it? And almost always the answer is yes. So it's possible. The second question becomes more difficult. Is it worth it? Because now they have other fears that kick in. The mother of all fears is the fear of judgment, right? If you remove the fear of judgment, there is no fear of success. There is no fear of failure. There is no fear of rejection. It's the mother of all fears. And so now they're thinking, is it worth it to have friends and family judge me? Is it worth it to be rejected? Is it worth it, to be challenged and all of that? And that's where you got to really have a clear vision. My dad grew up filthy rich when he was younger. We grew up upper middle class, had a great lifestyle, didn't have a fancy house or fancy cars, but we did have everything we wanted. And he always, took care of us, my dad and my mom. But my dad taught me that the purpose of money is, as I said earlier, was really just creating those experiences and those memories and having time. And so in my mind, my vision was so clear on what I wanted to be. I wanted to be that husband and that father that had time. I wanted to be that person that could serve the causes, humanitarian and the things like church that meant a lot to me. I wanted to be that person. And so my vision was so clear on exactly what I wanted. And that's key, because we hear things like, does your why make you cry? And sometimes we're like, oh, like, give me a break. That sounds so cliche. Well, let me say it in a different way. Your vision needs to be bigger than your mood swings, because some of you, I'm pointing fingers, but some of you are pretty moody. All of us are, to an extent, right? And so you got to make sure that your vision is more clear than your mood swings. And you have to also understand that you're going to lose some battles. Some days my fears beat my dreams, my vision, my goals. But more often than not, my goals and my dreams and my visions beat out my fears. And so overall, I won that war. And that's how you have to look at it, so you're not too hard on yourself. Of course, you're going to have those moments where you lose the battle, right? But that's okay. On to the next one.
I love it. Is the juice worth the squeeze, right? Like, is it really worth it? I know that's what helped me in real estate investing. I went almost 5 years without getting a deal. And but it was because I had created such a compelling, powerful vision of what I wanted and why I wanted the financial freedom through real estate that I just kept pushing. So it's interesting that you found just that same pattern, that it was all about that, just that vision for the future that has kind of kept you going through all that.
It's key. And I always say good leaders have vision, great leaders give vision. Because as an entrepreneur, you gotta have it, but then you always have to inspire. And inspire doesn't mean you've got to be this loud, extremely charismatic personality. There's a lot of people that inspire that are massive introverts. Rosa Parks, she was a massive introvert. There's lots of other celebrities, as you study, and that have had success and influenced people, or different type of presidents and different people that are introverts. I'm naturally more of an introvert. Notice I said naturally, because I believe you can be whoever you want to be. So I'm not an introvert or an extrovert. I'm whoever I want to be. Sometimes, I default to my nature, but other times, doing masterminds and speaking all over the world, that's not an introvert, right? Even though that's my nature, because you can be whoever you want to be. And we heard those type of things growing up. And then as we get older, it's just like we think everything's cliche and cheesy, and we forget our dreams. And so I'm telling you, you got to dust off those dreams and start thinking like you were when you were a little kid, of everything's possible. Someone else can do it. You can do it as well. It may take you longer, but these days with the information age, whenever I want to become great at something, all I do is just study it. I go listen to podcasts like these. I go read books. I go, read articles. And I usually create a theme of the month of something specific that I want to learn. And then I go just embrace myself in that specific theme and become obsessed with it. And sometimes it turns into 2, 3, 4 months so that I got a theme I'm focusing on that I'm learning to become better and better and better at.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. And let me go a little deeper on that other point you made, because you said, is it worth it and can I do it? I think that's what holds a lot of people back. You talked about even your idea of yourself as an introvert held you back at some points in your life. What does someone do to overcome that feeling like, oh, I can't do it. I can't do it. I failed in the past. How does someone overcome that, in your opinion?
I think it's just baby steps. It's just progress. Your whole goal is just progression. Stop looking at it as like this huge staircase where you just got to jump to the top because you're going to fall all the way down. Instead, just look at it as step by step. And that's all I did, is one foot in front of the other. I started out presenting in front of 3 or 4 people, and then in front of 10, 15 people, and then in front of 50 people. And I was bad at all of them. I didn't feel comfortable speaking in front of people for probably a good 7 years, which is just crazy. But I just kept doing it. And I kept telling myself, I can do this. It is worth it. And big deal. If people judge me or if I'm bad, that's just going to become a bigger part of my story. And so the words I was telling myself was just progression, 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 progression. Get better, get better, get better. Marry the process, divorce the results. Marry the process, divorce the results. And as I started focusing on that process of becoming better in progression, it made all the difference, because there's lots of things. I don't like feeling uncomfortable. I know all of you are like, well, none of us do. I am extreme in the comfort zone. Extreme. I mean, to the point of it can be annoying. So when I go to Dubai, that I just got back from 2 days ago, yeah, the very first day we show up, and right away they're teaching us all these different things for going swimming with sharks, and you're going to go scuba diving, right? And I'm just like, this is totally outside my comfort zone, but I know it's going to be worth it. So I have to have these conversations with myself. Skydiving, Nate, you don't know this. I am so scared of heights. My family shoots me a group text message this morning and says, what happened to you? 7 years ago, you wouldn't jump in Mexico from 15 feet into the water. That's how scared you are of heights. And you just went skydiving. And they're all sending these gifts and laughing their heads off. And they're like, what happened? Did somebody like force you, kidnap you, like those type of things? But again, I had to have this mental battle of, you know what, I can do this. It's worth it. I'm with my son. I'm going to create this experience. Don't think about any of the negatives. Just take it step by step. It's not a big deal, right? Get up there, like just go, just focus on one step at a time, right? And then all of a sudden it's 3, 2, 1. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is really happening. Like you see my face at the standstills of going out. And then I was like, okay, this isn't that bad. It isn't as bad. I was totally out of my comfort zone. I was like, yes, I did it, right? It's just progression. Marry the process, divorce the results.
I love it. I love it. And having done that myself in Hawaii a few years ago, it's once you're out of the plane, it's not that bad, right? Like I thought the flying down was going to be the scary part. The main scary part is just jumping out of the plane, right?
Standing on the edge of the plane and then thinking about standing on the edge of the plane. You're just like, wait, they're going to open that? Like, what if I just fall out? I mean...
I love it. Once you jump, it's all that energy to get you to the point where you're willing to take the risk. And any entrepreneurial journey, the very nature of it is risky, right? So it's like you gotta be willing to jump out of the plane. And I loved how that example of just like being committed to the process, one step at a time. You don't need to compare yourself to everybody else on Facebook or whatever. You just need to compare yourself to yourself and just push yourself and grow little by little, right?
100%. As we hear these things, but that's why I said at the beginning, successful people just do the basics better. It's the application of it. We need to hear these things over and over again, but then we need to execute these things and just start out with one thing at a time. Figure out what's the number one thing you need to work on and focus on that and become obsessed with that. And then as you become better at that, then you can move on to the next thing and then the next thing. But focus is one of the hardest things, especially these days with so many distractions where people feel like they're multitasking, doing this and then doing that and then doing this and that. They end up getting nothing accomplished. They end up being on the scroll patrol where they're on social media, for hours. And all of a sudden they're like, what happened to me? They aren't controlling what's happening. They become what I call firefighters of their lives. And if you want to have success, you need to become an architect of your life. An
Ooh, that's good.
architect designs what happens. Now, are there still fires that happen? Of course, 100%. You could plan everything's going to go this way, and then all of a sudden a kid's, throwing up and sick at home, and of course things change. That's just like building a house as an architect, though. You don't just all of a sudden just draw it up, it's perfect, there's no changes. Of course there's changes, but try building a house without any set of plans. Good luck. And that's what most people are doing with their lives, is they're just fighting fires. They're reactive instead of being proactive.
Nice. I love it. So you talked about the juice being worth the squeeze, right? You had a tremendous squeeze to get where you're at. And a lot of people just look at, successful people like you, Rob, and they just see, oh, he must be more talented. He must, yada, yada. But you went through a lot, just like all entrepreneurs do. They all have this story of just, it's sometimes excruciating. You got to go through a lot. You got to risk a lot. You got to keep pushing through. But let's talk about the juice a little bit. Like what you talked about Dubai and some of these other cool things you've done. Tell me a little bit more about what kind of freedom has this given you? What have you done with the juice that you've had in your life because of the squeeze that you went through?
It's been so fun honestly, I was just thinking with my wife, I'm like, we need to create new places to go. She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, we've gone to most of our bucket list places. We had a goal of going to Australia, and I've been to Australia 3 years in a row. So then we created the goal of going to New Zealand. I went to New Zealand this year. She wanted to go all over Europe, and you could go to Europe a million times and not be done. But we started out, and 3 years ago, she said, okay, let's go to Europe. So we went and did the Amalfi Coast, which was incredible.
So
Positano, right? And
yes,
that was
my
great.
favorite part.
Yeah, it's incredible. We did Santorini, Greece, and was able to see that. We went and did Rome. We went and did Paris. We went and did Amsterdam. So then the next year, she was like, you know what? I really want to do Croatia. I hear great things about Croatia. So we went and did all over Croatia, the castles, the islands, everything. So that was absolutely phenomenal. Then she said, okay, let's take our family and let's go do a trip in Banff, Canada. I hear that's one of the most epic places. So we went up to Banff and took the family there, and that was absolutely incredible. And so not only do we try to do 7+ family vacations. This year we did Lake Powell. You were there at Pirates Cove at the epic resort type mansion with I don't know, it's like 26,000 square feet and just incredible. And we did that. Not only do we do that, but my wife and I make sure we take several trips a year, at least 2 without the kids. Nice. Where it's just her and I, where I get my wife back, where she doesn't have the stresses of the world and the kids, and we get to just hang out. And so we get to do that. So I just feel like being able to create that freedom makes such a huge difference, with it. I was able to do a guys trip this year with friends that I've been friends with for the last decade and do that. I feel like now I get to live truly life on my own terms, where I get to make my schedule. I get to decide what I want to do. I don't have anything that owns me from a negative standpoint. It's all the things that I want to do, what fulfills me. And so I love that. I plan a lot of my speaking engagements and different things and masterminds around my kids, events, whether that's tennis tournaments or whatever else, so that I can be there as much as possible. Of course, every so often it's just not going to work out, which is good, because I also show them Dad's got, a strong work ethic. But that goes back to, can you do it? But is it worth it? And I can tell you, if you lived my lifestyle, or you lived Nate's lifestyle, you would know it's truly worth it, because everything worthwhile is going to be hard. Everything's hard. Yeah. It's hard being single. It's hard being married. It's hard having kids. It's hard not having kids. It's hard having a job. It's hard not having a job. It's hard being an entrepreneur, right? Everything worthwhile is hard. So you just got to choose your hard and have perspective on what can it bring you. And the upside of being an entrepreneur is so high. Now, of course, you're going to have to pay your dues. That's just part of the process. If it were easy, everybody would be doing it and it wouldn't be worthwhile, right? So you're going to have to pay your dues. That's normal, but I can tell you it's 100% worth it.
I love it. Yeah, I love how you said you're the architect of your own schedule, right? You get to choose what you're doing, when you're doing it, go design all your events around. I mean, I remember when we went to Pirate Cove together and you had your kids there and you stayed an extra couple days after that. And I mean, just I love the kind of freedom that you experience, that you're an example of.
And with that, I mean, I didn't have to do this, but I had 8 other families that came that are some of the closest families, and a couple of them couldn't afford it. So I wanted to be fair where I wasn't just paying for them. So I paid $4,000 total to bring the total bill down for everybody. Like that's the kind of stuff that is fun because I want to create memories with friends, right? And so, you know, that's just what it's about. That's what life's about. I mean, doing that experience with my son. When my kids turn 16, they can choose to go anywhere they want in the world. And my son chose to go to Dubai. It's a bucket list. Anywhere they want in the world. It's like, let's go to Dubai. We booked it 6 weeks later. We were in Dubai for, 8 or 9 days. It was absolutely phenomenal.
I love it. And what other kind of personal growth opportunities or chances to impact have you had because of the freedom that you've created, Rob?
Yeah. From a personal standpoint, I mean, I do masterminds where I'm able to have impact, books, impact, podcasts, YouTube, but personal coaching is where I feel like I've been able to, that and masterminds have the biggest impacts, because being able to work one-on-one with people, giving them daily access to me, voice message wise, and then if they're VIPs, doing Zooms once a month, this is where you really get a cut through all the crap and all this stuff that's going on and really get focused on how to have those breakthroughs. And that goes back to, remember, I was the tennis coach. And so for me, that's where I feel like I shine the most and get the most fulfillment, enjoyment, because for me, I'm competitive and I like winning. And so when I get to work with, my clients who become my partners that I'm coaching, seeing them win, for me, I feel like it's like I'm winning. It's almost like being a coach in a sport where your team wins and you're the coach, even though you may not be the player, but how excited are you when they win? You're equally excited. And that's how I feel.
Oh, I love it. And how does someone find out about this opportunity to coach with you? Because I did it and I'm still doing it, right? I mean, you've just had such an impact on my life and helping me build my brand, jumping on this kind of like podcasting, all these amazing things that you, and actually one of the things I'll just tell you, Rob, one of the things I love best about you is that Rob is so good at helping you to utilize other people's skills, right? My good friend Ben Hardy wrote this book, Who Not How, and Rob is a great exemplar of this. He's got a list of 10 different virtual assistants that do everything for him. I remember our first coaching call together. He's like, all right, here's my list. And I was like, this person does that. This person, like, he just had all these different things all done by virtual assistants, mostly like in other countries. And just blew me away, the complexity. I'm like, I want to get to that point where I'm just
doing it now,
everything.
Man. You're doing it.
I'm getting more and more delegated, and it's helping me. But it's been a big thing. But tell everyone, how can they find you? How, if they wanted to reach out and get that kind of one-on-one? Because I know you're always like, when I send you a message, you're always getting back to me that same day, and I try not to abuse it, but I do get a lot of value out of that. So.
Oh, I love working with you. It's fun. My personal coaching clients, I'll shut off a lot of the social media apps and stuff. My personal coaching clients, I'll put them on a specific voice messaging app so they can have more access. So if you go to www.runwithrob.robsperry.com, and I'll say that again, www.runwithrob.robsperry.com. That's where you'll see an application for it. You'll see many of the details, the different options on that. And then from that application, it will shoot to myself and my team. So if it's something that you want to do and you want to take your business to the next level, whether that's branding, whether that's social media, whether you're an entrepreneur or in direct sales, I would love to work with you.
Yeah, I mean, one other thing that he helped me do is Facebook groups, right? Yeah, I remember sitting with you a couple years ago. You said do this thing, and I did it, and man, I just made probably over $100,000 just on that one idea of using Facebook groups. So Rob's an expert in social media and personal branding, so many other things. So definitely recommend working with Rob. With run with Rob. We'll include the link in the show notes. But Rob, I really appreciate your time today, man. I mean, you've inspired me so much, and I think just our conversation today is really going to impact so many people. Any closing thoughts as we wrap up for today?
Just make it happen. It can be overwhelming. So again, pick one thing you're going to focus on and work on to improve your business and improve your life, and just focus on progress. It's not going to all happen. I mean, if you look at the stuff I have now, it'd be overwhelming. And I was overwhelmed when I started, but I started out with one assistant that worked 5 hours a week. And then I scaled to more and more and more and more and built a bigger and bigger team to help me to outsource. And that's the same concept and principle with everything that I apply now. Starting a podcast was overwhelming to me. Focusing on YouTube was overwhelming at first. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to focus on a little bit of daily progress. That's it. Daily progress, daily progress. And then you look back and you're like, wow, that's incredible as you go. So that would be my suggestion. Just want to thank you, Nate. You're absolutely incredible human being, leader, entrepreneur, events investor. You're always moving and shaking and making things happen. And so I love watching you win and influence and help out so many people. So if you are listening to this podcast, make sure you smash the subscribe button so you don't miss any of Nate's latest and greatest podcasts.
Thanks so much, Rob. You're a champion, man, in so many ways. Thanks for joining, and have an awesome rest of your day, brother. Cool, man. Thanks again.
All right, my man. I gotta take off, but
All right.
I'm back in town. So anything you need, let me know.
Sounds like a plan, brother, man. We'll
All
see
right.
ya.